Hey everyone, Zoia Future here, and today we're going to take a look at some Empress Effects Zoia, slightly more advanced routings. Now my actual hard drive has crashed, so I've lost some assets and some profiles, so this video might turn out a little bit janky, but we're doing our best. The thing we're going to look at in this video, obviously Empress Effects Zoia. I assume you already have some base knowledge if you haven't checked out my previous video or any content about this pedal, and you don't own one, this is going to be one hell of a confusing video. So make sure you have a little bit of basic knowledge here before starting to get interested into this. So the kind of thing I want to talk to you about today is along the lines of feedback routing, and I will talk a little bit about also some parallel routing options and some following effects you can make with Zoia. So let's start off as per usual by making a base patch with a in and output. We are going to stay in mono for this one, just because it's a little easier. So let's route it up. There we go. And this is your basic routing in Zoia. Which is just a throughput routing going in and out of the Zoia. Not all that interesting, so we're going to delete this and we're going to start off with a little bit of feedback routing. Now for this feedback example I'm going to use the delay line. And we are going to use a simple delay. Yeah, not going to change anything. Route the signal in, route the signal out, and now we have a delay. Let's actually give it a little bit of time so you can actually hear it. Let's put it at something like this. Now if you play something, our signal is delayed, and to show off that it's actually delayed, let's do a throughput. Not all that complicated. Now if we want to do a feedback loop, it's actually quite simple. You can just connect any output to an input, so we can just take the output of the delay line and route it into the input of the delay line. That's very important to attenuate the signal, or you will get a constant feedback loop which will clip and actually mute the channel. So let's put this at 50%. Well, let's take a listen. And it's that simple to make a delay line. You can also turn the feedback down a little bit if you want less feedback, so it dies out quicker. Or you can go a little bit adventurous and put up the feedback quite high. And this way it will keep feedbacking for quite a while. Now, one thing people often do when they use feedback is actually put a filter in line just to kind of dampen the signal a little bit so it doesn't get out of control too fast. So let's do a low pass filter here. Route the signal into the low pass. So we now have a signal going straight from the guitar to the output. We have a signal going through the delay line to the output, from the delay line to the filter, and from the filter back into the delay line. So this is our feedback. So let's turn it down a little bit. And let's actually take our filter, give it a little bit of high content. There we go. You can also put in a high pass filter to keep it from building up too much low end, of course. This is a pretty standard example for this sort of thing. Again, feedback routing is exceptionally simple. Just connect the output of an effect back into itself or route it through a effect back into the start of the effect. Now, if you were to do this without the delay, you would just get a constant buildup of feedback over a one sample delay because the blocks always have a sample of delay. That's just processing. So you can actually do a one sample delay feedback line, which probably doesn't sound all that great, but for the sake of it, let's actually do that. So let's take that one, let's take it out. And let's actually let's do it this way. It's probably the easiest way. Very teeny. But if that's your thing, you can actually do that. So it's nice that we have the options. So that's a very simple thing to do, even though feedback routing is an option many effects don't necessarily give you. You can do it with the Zoia. My hint would still be to use a delay in your feedback just to keep this kind of tinny buildup from happening. And with a little bit of delay, you can easily fix that. Now, the other thing we can do is parallel processing, which is pretty cool. And with parallel processing, instead of putting everything into a chain, you can put things side by side. Now, for instance, what we can do is we're going to use some effects here. Let's do a delay. Let's do a whole reverb, sure. That's fun. Now I'm going to show the slightly better way of doing this using a mixer. We have two channels, and that will be our setup. All right, so let's delete our dry. Now let's hook up our inputs. And because we're going to work parallel, we are just going to connect the inputs to the outputs. So the signal goes into our delay, the signal goes into our whole reverb, and they both go out to the mixer. So into the mixer, I think this is stereo. Yeah, let's take the left channel into the mixer. There we go. So our mixer now has two inputs, should have two inputs. Yeah, there we go. Oh, I actually messed it up. There we go. And we output here. Now, the nice thing with parallel routing is that you can actually take delays and just turn them all wet, because the delay is not going through the reverb. So our delay is still nice and unaffected by the reverb. Let's make this a little bit better. Just as a comparison, let's take a listen to what it would sound like if we didn't use parallel processing. So we are going to delete the parallel processing. And we're going to run the delay into the reverb. Oh, messed that one up. And out. Quite a big difference. Of course, the reverb is still at 100%, so let's turn it down a little bit. Let's go to 30. You know, the delay is affected by the reverb. So the nice thing of parallel routing is that you can actually use several effects without them interfering with each other. You can also use this with a little bit more of a drastic effect. So let's actually remove this connection. Let's actually remove the entire delay. We are going to keep our little reverb here. But our reverb is once again going into the mixer. And we will grab a distortion here. Let's do a fuzz. Okay, there we go. As you can hear, our fuzz is not affected by the reverb, which is now all of a sudden quite quiet. So let's make the reverb a little bit louder. And let's actually turn the fuzz down a little bit. And that's parallel routing, and of course you can make these change much longer and more intricate. And the nice thing is, because you can actually add more mixer slots if you require them, you can actually do 3, 4, 5, 6 parallel lanes, something that isn't all that common in guitar effects to start with. This is a very nice extra feature to have at hand. There's some more stuff you can do, like for instance band splitting, and for band splitting I'm just going to cut and show you the routing afterwards, because this is going to take a little while to set up and I think it would be very boring to look at. So let's just snap it to that point and meet you on that side. Alright, and there we are. So what I've set up here is, it's fairly simple. It's a input going into a SV filter. The SV filter has a frequency. Then it has a resonance, and it has a output for the low pass part and output for the high pass part. Now this is something you need to select when you make the filter. You have a low pass output and high pass output, which both need to be at on. We have this connected to a input switch, audio input switch, which is connected to the foot switch. So I can actually let you hear what is going on. So when it is on channel 1, we hear the low pass part of the effect. So if I play now, you will hear it's all very dampened. This is the low pass part of the guitar signal, and when we press the little button here, it will switch to the high pass. it will sound a little bit old-timey microphone-esque. Which is definitely a vibe. Now, what you can do from here on is actually use this low and high pass outfit to band split your signal. This is something that is fairly commonly done because it allows some nice tricks. One thing you can do is, for instance, add distortion to the lower part without putting distortion on the high part of your signal to keep the high pass clearer and make the sound a little less bitey. So let's actually get into that. Let's take out these little routing things, which are just for demonstration. There we go. There we go. Bye. Now let's actually route something. So let's make a distortion effect here. Overdrive distortion. Very nice. We have that here. We're going to send the low part of the signal into that. Not just because we are good people. You can actually just route both, but it's better to use a little mixer here. So let's go to the audio models. Yeah, that's the right one. And there should be a little mixer in here. Audio mixer. There we go. 2 channels. Low goes in here. High goes in here. And this goes out. Cool. Let's boost that distortion a little bit. That's quite a lot of little bit. And you can also use it the other way around if you want to keep the low end undistorted, which actually helps you to maintain the lows. You can also choose to route the high end into the distortion, and the low end goes straight out. So low end goes into mixer, high end goes into the distortion, into the mixer, it all still goes out. And that's band pass splitting, which is a pretty cool little trick. And you can of course use multiple splitters to do even more splits depending on what you're trying to achieve with your sound. So these are some features which make Zoia pretty unique in a sense and very flexible, is that you can very easily change the routing of your sound, be it just all in series, be it parallel, using feedback, and using band splitting to create some very unique effects. There are of course multi-pedals which can do this as well, like the Cortex and that sort of stuff. But on such a inexpensive, yes, maybe a little bit of a big word, but it's not that expensive of a pedal. It's a very nice additional feature set you can play around with. So that's the video for today. Some routing ideas you can apply. And in the next video, we will talk a little bit more about feedback routing and do some weird stuff with it. So for now, this is it. See ya.